You tell yourself you're stuck. Stuck in the same habits. Stuck in the same job. Stuck in the same version of your life. You think the problem is motivation, that you're lazy, undisciplined, unfocused. But what if that's not the real reason? What if you're not stuck at all? What if you're standing at the edge of a new identity and part of you is afraid to step into it? Because change isn't just about new actions. It's about becoming a different version of yourself. And identity shifts are uncomfortable. Think about it. Every version of you comes with a story. There's the version of you your friends recognize, the version your family expects, the version your coworkers understand. Over time, those expectations create a kind of psychological contract. People know who you are. They know how you behave. They know what to expect from you. And your brain learns to stay consistent with that identity. Psychologists call this identity consistency. Your mind prefers to act in ways that match the story you already believe about yourself. So when you try to change your life, you're not just changing behavior, you're threatening that story. If you've always seen yourself as the quiet one, speaking up feels unnatural. If you've always been the reliable one, setting boundaries feels selfish. If you've always been the struggling one, success can feel strangely unfamiliar. And unfamiliar things make the brain nervous, even if they're good for you. Because your nervous system doesn't measure what's better, it measures what's familiar. Familiar equals safe. Unfamiliar equals risk. That's why people often stay in situations they've outgrown, not because they love them, but because they understand them. The known pain feels safer than the unknown version of themselves. There's another layer to this. When you step into a new identity, the people around you react, sometimes subtly, sometimes openly. If you become more confident, someone might say you've changed. If you become more disciplined, someone might joke that you're too serious now. If you start setting boundaries, someone might accuse you of being selfish. Those reactions create social pressure, and humans are wired to avoid losing belonging. So your brain asks a quiet question. If I become this new version of myself, will people still accept me? That question alone is powerful enough to keep people frozen for years, not because they can't change, but because change risks altering their relationships. There's also a deeper psychological factor. Your current identity gives you predictability. You know how people respond to you. You know how to move through the world. But a new identity means uncertainty. You don't know how people will react. You don't know if you'll succeed. You don't know if you'll feel comfortable in your own skin. So your brain creates resistance. It calls it procrastination or confusion or not being ready yet. But underneath all those labels is one emotion: fear. Not fear of failure, fear of transformation. Because transformation asks you to release the version of yourself that kept you safe for years. And letting go of a familiar identity can feel like losing part of yourself, even if that identity is limiting you. But here's the shift most people don't realize. The feeling of being stuck often appears right before identity expansion. It's the psychological tension between who you've been and who you're becoming. Your brain is negotiating the change, testing whether the new version of you is real. And that tension can feel confusing. Part of you wants the growth, another part of you pulls back. That push and pull doesn't mean you're incapable of change. It means you're in the middle of it. Every major life shift includes this phase. The phase where your old identity still feels familiar, but your new identity is starting to call you forward. And during that phase, you may interpret the discomfort as failure, when it's actually evidence of growth. Because the truth is,
You're not stuck. You're standing at the doorway of a different version of yourself, a version that thinks differently, acts differently, carries themselves differently. And the only real challenge isn't learning new skills. It's giving yourself permission to become someone unfamiliar. Once you accept that, something changes. You stop waiting to feel ready. You stop interpreting discomfort as a warning. Instead, you start seeing it as a signal that your identity is expanding. And the moment you allow yourself to step into that unfamiliar version of you, stuck disappears. Not because the path suddenly becomes easy, but because you finally realized the path was never blocked. You were just standing at the threshold of a new self, deciding whether to walk through.